Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Musa, and I'm here to present my conference paper at the 28th Annual Conference of the International Group for Lean Construction. The title of the paper is Target Value Delivery in Bid Process. The authors are myself and Christine Pasquire. This presentation focuses on the introduction, problem statement, literature review, methodology, results, contributions to knowledge. Various lean construction scholars have noted that projects now are becoming more complex and dynamic, and the traditional tendering procedure is becoming incapable of handling these complexities. As most projects have been reported to result in cost overrun, making it more expensive, always slower, and with less quality, which means that these projects are not lean projects. There have been increased emphasis in the current lean construction literature that the lowest price should not be the principal evaluation criteria during the bid process. However, the traditional tendering procedure neglects technical and managerial qualifications and focuses more on the lowest cost for selecting its contractors. Most of the challenges in the traditional tendering process include schedule and cost overrun, missing items, rework and variations. Also, there have been advocates of new methods that will foster collaboration in the traditional tendering and bid process. The inclusion of TVD in the bid process will help to mitigate these problems encountered by selecting the final contractor not based on cost alone. The application of TVD in itself is quite challenging, especially in public sector projects and traditional bid process, mostly due to lack of early involvement of stakeholders and government policies. Target value design emerged from target costing from manufacturing. And the idea of target costing focuses mainly on setting cost target, while target value design broadens the concept to include time, quality, and value targets, which means that the need to test target value design application on the traditional bid process and public sector projects cannot therefore be overemphasized. Target value design mostly focuses on designing to set targets, which are cost, quality, and schedule, client value, and includes collaboration, early involvement of key stakeholders. While the tendering is a procurement procedure where potential suppliers are invited to make a clear and realistic offer on the price and terms of specified goods and services or works that they intend to supply, upon which subsequent contracts are based on if accepted. We have the pre-tendering, tendering, and post-tendering steps, where it normally you assess the needs, you do a design, and then you cost it, define the requirement. Then during tendering, you invite tenderers to just fill up a blank bill of quantity. While target value design, you set a target first and you design to those targets. The methodology used for this study was carried out in the northern Nigeria. Primary data was collected using project documents, semi-structured interview of 17 professionals who participated in 2 case study projects. The interviews include construction professionals, mostly have over 15 years experience. The researchers participated in both case studies as the project manager in the first case study, and the project director in the second case study. Moving the next results and discussion, that's the TVD steps in itself in the bid process. The first step is the selection of the pre-qualified tenderers using selective tendering to make the process more manageable. Then the second step is invitation to tender, where those tenderers are being given tender documents that include target value design principles and practices for them to go through, and if they are going to participate, they will have to adhere to it. The third step is you now train those tenderers using workshops or TVD simulation game, and other methods like FFI TVD, that's framework for implementing target value delivery. The fourth steps is where you now break down the team into clusters, which include individual tenderers and the design team. That is like, we have like the mechanical cluster, structural cluster, architectural cluster, then or infrastructure cluster, depending on the scope of work. Then the fifth step is design options that are being identified by each clusters will now be integrated to get the most suitable design. Then after the most suitable design is being identified and designed, to the blank bill will be given to the tenderers to now quote, whereby the most responsive tender will be awarded the contract based on his adherence to TVD practices, innovative contributions during design, tenderers' competencies, and negotiated costs. Some of the results and discussions regarding budget and cost: the use of competitive tendering on the case studies with TVD principles enabled the team to gain about 35.4% and 8.2% savings from the allowable cost in the first and second case study projects, respectively. There was also cost certainty during the construction. The implementation of TVD in case studies produced a more realistic schedule and enabled the project team to deliver the project a month before the scheduled time for case study 1 and 3 weeks ahead of the time for case study 2, because all the key stakeholders looked at all the parameters to set the time schedule. Competency assessment was also some of the benefits identified. Working together with the tenderers also enabled the team to test their competencies based on direct interaction and quality of ideas suggested. The knowledge and practice of TVD is also developed by participants of the project. Stakeholder satisfaction: there was transparency in working, and all stakeholders participated and contributed to the whole design process. They were able to make contributions on aspects that would affect them, leaving with a sense of satisfaction. Better construction process and method and a better integrated team were also recognized as benefits of TVD in the bid process. Reductions of variations and change orders, which would have not been the case if all the key stakeholders were not together, because missing items were identified. Multiple design options were gotten as a result of contractors coming up with different ways to get work done without exceeding target cost. As I said earlier, early identification of missing items on the design. Missing items were identified early when the team members and tenderers assessed the site before the design commenced. This led to a reduction of waste, improved tender document. Having the tenderers in the midst of the design team ensured that the team had adequate and updated information concerning the material specifications available in the market. This informed the decision during design, not as the previous projects where designers would just put specifications that are not currently in the market. Then also review of site conditions. Tenderers also had the opportunity to assess the site and make recommendations during the design process. All this impacted to the project. Moving to the drawbacks and barriers, a lack of trust was noted as tenderers were worried that the ideas were being used for the project, even if maybe some of them would not be selected. But that was countered because they agreed during the tender invitation, because the TVD in the tender process was part of the tender criteria. Another barrier of the process was a lack of incentives. At least contractors were saying that there should be some payments for logistics for these participating in case they fail to get the project. Contributions to knowledge. This research has exposed that key stakeholders can be involved early in the project by introducing TVD principles and practices in the tender criteria. The inclusion of TVD in the bid process in this study has helped to mitigate the problems caused by selecting the final contractor based on cost alone, which was a concern in the link community. It also shows that TVD can be successfully implemented in other procurement routes other than IPD contracts. Incentives are recommended to motivate participants who are not awarded the contract to eliminate perception of exploitation. This study will also be useful in the construction industry generally and in Nigeria. It provides a solution with practical evidence of how TVD can improve bid process and mitigate previous challenges reported. The study also established that there are other criteria such as competencies, value for client, cost, realistic schedule. Thank you for listening to this presentation. I look forward to reading your questions and feedbacks. Thank you very much.